Congressman, great to see you. One thing that Nate Silver noted is that one of the best economic variables at predicting election outcomes is real take-home pay. And if you look at a chart of take-home pay after inflation in this country, it looks like a dead man's EKG since Joe Biden took office for the most part. And there is no way that anybody on the Biden team, including the POTUS himself, can flim and flam and lie their way out of what Americans have felt in the last 3.5 years.
Yeah, the average family is spending $12,000 more a year. That's just the average family. Your 4th of July cookout coming up in the next week is going to cost 30% more than it did before Joe Biden became president. The American people see that. Everyday Americans, when they go to the grocery store, just like that gentleman in your news clip was saying, when they go to the gas station, when they go to the grocery store, they realize that it's more expensive. They have less discretionary income. Americans aren't stupid. And unfortunately, the Democrats think the Americans are stupid and we can just say, oh, the economy's great and lie to the American people. But the American people are smarter than that. And they know that the economy was better under President Trump than it was under President Biden. They know that inflation is killing them at a huge cost. And I think that's going to be one of the big markers for independence going into this election cycle.
Yeah, and Congressman, 65% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Not good for them and their wallets. And Joe Biden, as we were talking about in the polling, is not doing well. And the top of the ticket really matters, especially in House races. And Democrats haven't distanced themselves from Joe Biden's policies. So do you feel pretty good about how the House is going to go as well with Democrats who are lockstep with Joe Biden? Are you going to get a bigger majority is what I'm asking come November?
Yeah, I don't see a scenario where Trump wins the presidency and we lose seats in the House. I think we gain tremendous gains. And if you look in some of those tough races, you're going to have people come out just for President Trump that are going to vote for Republicans while they're at the ballot box because they're going to see that we're going to support President Trump's policies. So I think we're going to have a great night in November. I think everybody agrees that we flip the Senate. If Trump wins, I don't see a scenario where we lose the House. I think we gain a tremendous amount of seats in the House. And I think that puts us in really good footing coming in to that election cycle, after that election cycle, into that year where we have 2 years with a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and Trump in the White House to get a lot of great policy done, including making his tax cuts permanent.
Well, hopefully you guys, if you get that opportunity, hopefully you guys use it to great avail, whether you go after the Department of Energy, the EPA, the DOJ, the FBI. Hopefully it's not squandered where oftentimes before your time, Congressman, when Republicans had all majorities and the White House, they were squandering their opportunity to actually go after this deep state.
Well, the great thing is President Trump. He'll be in the White House and he can do away with all those 64 executive orders that Biden put in place on the border. He can do away with Biden's orders to do away with the domestic production of energy and gas. There's so many things that President Trump can do to help our economy right away, to help the country right away, that then a Republican Congress and Senate will come back in and back him up. And he will pull the party to his position. If there are Republicans that feel one way or the other about it, he has a very strong hold over the base of our party. And I think he's going to bring people to his position. So regardless of what the majority is, I think we'll be able to get a lot of great policy wins.
Congressman, don't go anywhere. Stay right there.
Yeah, wait right there. As Americans continue to be crushed under the weight of high inflation, Fed Governor Michelle Bowman is warning that Biden's open border policies may be making things even worse.
Our own Edward Lawrence is at the White House with the details. Hey, Ed.
135.
Well, Dagan and Sean, at least one Federal Reserve member is acknowledging the fact that inflation could be connected to the immigration policy at the border. Michelle Bowman, who is a voting member for the FOMC this year, says that the amount of migrants that flowed into the U.S. pushed up certain prices.
So given the currently low inventory of affordable housing in the United States, the inflow of new immigrants to some geographic areas could result in upward pressure on rents, as additional housing supply may take time to materialize.
That's Fed speak for the available supply of rental apartments or houses being taken by the increased number of migrants could push up the prices. 7.7 million people have illegally crossed the southern border from the day President Biden came into office. She also says that core inflation could rise because the number of migrants using services. Now, it's Economics 101. More demand, less supply, prices rise. Now, in a memo obtained by Fox Business, the Biden administration says the unlawful lethal encounters have dropped following the president's executive actions on June 4th. But the memo promotes what the president did 3.5 years into his term. It fails to talk about the dangerous heat as a deterrent, also the moves that Texas has made. The House Speaker, in a statement to Fox Business, says each day Joe Biden enables this crisis, he exacerbates its economic toll, forcing citizens to compete with illegal migrants for scarce resources, further burdening American families who already struggle to make ends meet, and subjecting them to unprecedented threats to their physical safety. The border will likely come up at the presidential showdown. It's going to happen on Thursday. Dagan, Sean?
Ed Lawrence, thank you.
So as of this month, California, Colorado, Illinois, New York, Oregon, Washington State, and D.C. are all pandering to illegal aliens by expanding fully state-funded health coverage to income-eligible adults, regardless of immigration status, meaning, yes, illegal aliens.
Meanwhile, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is taking a victory lap, claiming his crackdown on illegal immigration has prompted a 50% decrease in Medicaid spending for undocumented migrants.
We made sure for when you have people show up at the hospital that we're asking about immigration status, and that's caused the Medicaid expenditures to plummet by 50%. In the state of Florida. We don't recognize we don't issue driver's license to illegal aliens. We don't recognize any ID cards issued from other states or even from private organizations. I surged a flotilla of boats in the Florida Keys to prevent boats coming in from places like Haiti, and on it goes. So we've had to take extraordinary efforts, and it all goes back to Joe Biden violating his oath of office to take care that the laws of this country are faithfully executed.
Let's welcome back Florida Congressman Greg Steube. It's astonishing if you listen and pay attention to what the governor of your state is doing. Medicaid covers, and this is from the federal level, Medicaid covers payments for emergency services made on behalf of individuals regardless of immigration status. So that includes illegal migrants. And so the states are left trying to fend for themselves and try to reduce the number of illegals in the state. But Congressman, it is astonishing at how much money is just beginning to be poured into just health services for these illegals. And when we are facing a $35 trillion debt, we need to be going the way of, well, other than closing the border, the way of the governor in Florida.
Yeah, I wish we had more states like Florida where we had leadership like that was taking a strong stance against illegal immigration. And what's interesting is they just simply are asking the question of their immigration status. Are you a citizen of this country or not? And it is thwarting by 50% the cost. And back to what that other clip was showing of the increase in inflation because of 12 million illegals that have come into our country. It's not just health care. It's everywhere. It's education. It's jobs. It's cost of things because you have more people in the country that's leading this and that is causing a lot of this. So I'm just glad we live in the free state of Florida and we have leaders. I wish more of our governors and more of our state legislatures were taking steps like this to curb the immigration crisis and the cost on American taxpayers. I believe the number is $1,100 a year, an additional cost on Americans in the tax base because of the cost of illegal immigration and Joe Biden's open border policies.
You know, we always talk about this in the media, which is what you see right off the bat, which is, the plane tickets they get to the state of their choice, whether it's, the phones, housing, food, they get the debit cards. But you scratch the surface, to your point, you see, the cost of education, you see the cost of healthcare services, and the cost is massive to the American people. And when you have states that say we're not going to do it any longer, you actually see the migrants, the illegal migrants, making different choices, going to states that are going to give them more services. And so good on Florida. But, Congressman, I want to move on to this because you were busy on Capitol Hill today addressing child welfare issues, hearing from the one, the only Paris Hilton. Let's watch.
41.
Today, residential facilities are continuing to warehouse over 50,000 foster youth and unknown number of adopted youth in lockdown facilities. Innocent kids who have not committed crimes, kids whose parents didn't have resources to support them, kids whose parents passed away, kids who have already experienced trauma. This $23 billion a year industry sees this population as dollar signs and operates without meaningful oversight. What is more important, protecting business profits or protecting foster youth lives? Please join me in creating a world where all children have a right to family, love, education, and the support they need.
You know, Congressman, I think we all would agree that kids that go to these facilities, they shouldn't be abused. They should be kept safe, and there should be oversight. Question for you, are you getting bipartisan support on the bill that is a Republican bill, but hopefully Democrats are going to join in and make sure these kids that are in foster care or in these homes are being taken care of?
Yeah, it was a very bipartisan hearing today, and I thank you for her advocacy on the issue, having experienced trauma and abuse in a group home and able to speak to that, and all the other witnesses able to speak to that. And myself and Jimmy Panetta out of California filed a bill today or yesterday that will address some of these issues that have been highlighted in some of the testimony. So it is a bipartisan issue. It was a very bipartisan hearing, which isn't typical up here on Washington to hear both sides of the aisle talk about some need for reform and some need for oversight in these group homes. Look, our children are our most valuable asset, and we need to make sure that they're protected in the places that they are, whether that be foster care or group homes. And anything that we can do at the federal level to ensure that they're being treated appropriately, I think is an important aspect of the government, and we should be focused on that.
Congressman, we should point out that where she experienced abuse was a private facility, and that she comes from an exceedingly rich family. This was not a foster in a foster home that she was in specifically. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, and there was others that were there that came from a foster community, but that's a good point to make. But I think the advocacy of the whole panel that we had today on that issue is important. And we have great group homes in the state of Florida, like the Florida Sheriff's Youth Ranch, that do a great job in providing a group home environment for our children. But there's certainly some bad actors out there that there needs to be some reform on, and it's a very bipartisan issue, so we're happy to move that bill forward.
Good on that. Congress working together to help the kids out. Congressman Greg Steube, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
Anytime.